But I'll tell you immediately, when I saw the list of classes that MCBS was going to have,
Yeah.
I saw that one down there right in the middle and put my name by it immediately. It was like, well, this is me.
Okay, so this is new because you're usually asked to do things, right? When you don't even ask. But for this particular class, you wanted to do this.
I said that was written for me. That was built for me. I have no idea who came and got in my head.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the I Am Rodism podcast. Today, we have a special guest, someone I find very interesting, very funny. He's my professor at Full Sail University, and he's in charge of the Gaming and Transmedia Storytelling program. And today, we're going to talk to him about the program and talk to him about gaming in that world. I'm not a gamer, so this is very interesting to me, so we're going to get to learn together. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jason Gillett.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here.
Okay, thank you for coming.
You bet.
All right, so, Mr. Jason, well, first of all, thank you for coming in at short notice. You came in here, I asked you to come because I wanted to ask you some questions and do this interview, and you were nice enough to, change things in your schedule for me, so I appreciate that.
Well, like I told you, if I ever have a chance to sit down and talk about myself, I'm going to take it.
Okay, good. Good. We appreciate that. So let's get into, first of all, what do you do at Full Sail? I know you were my professor as a gaming and transmedia professor. What is it that you do exactly, and how did you get the position here at Full Sail?
Well, I teach, and I've been teaching my entire life, even before I'd graduated from high school. I was teaching. I think in middle school, I had a little card I carried in my wallet, Future Educator of FFA, FEA, Future Educator of America. That's what it was, FEA. It was a club for middle school students that knew they wanted to teach. And oddly, I even wanted to teach at the university level back then. So I felt like this was where I was headed. If I was taking you on a long journey, I would tell you that I ended up veering completely off that course and instead focused on media-related things that I would fall in love with. Back then, old school media was chemical photography, where you have to get your film developed. It was the graphic design was a completely different animal. You would use a light table and a waxing machine to lay out and design a magazine, for instance. And all those things intrigued me. I loved those storytelling modes. And it was in 2010 that I transitioned from being an old school media user to a new school digital media user officially, because that's when I came to Full Sail as a student. Got my master's here in a program called Education, Media, Design, Technology. A lot of Florida teachers were running through the program back then. Teachers from the whole nation, but Florida was getting a discount.
So you were a teacher before you became a student here at Full Sail?
Yep, I taught for 20 years in the public school system.
Before you came to be a student again?
Right. And I was teaching while I was a student. Full Sail's great for that. They let you keep your job, and they don't let you sleep at night. You got to do your work when you should be sleeping, but if you can work and be a student at the same time if you give up your sleep.
Okay, so my question is, what made you, after all those years of teaching, want to come back as a student, and why Full Sail? What was your intentions when you decided to join Full Sail?
I love that question, and it's got a specific answer, too. All the things that I loved about my job were interacting with my students, and I'd done it for so long that the world had completely changed. When I first started teaching, I was using, in my internship days, chalk on a chalkboard. And then my first couple of years of teaching, everything transitioned to dry erase boards because we found out that chalk dust was making people sick. And so then it was dry erase boards. And 15, 20 years later, when I was leaving the classroom, we all had smart boards on the wall. And we were touching these giant computer monitors instead of having a board that our kids would write on. All of that transition took place while I was teaching. And I learned it as a professional step by step, but I didn't have that big picture understanding of how it all fit together. And I learned about Full Sail having a program that specifically did that. And I thought, if this is what I do, if educating, whatever the subject is, if educating is what I do, then I should probably be good at it.
Right.
And Full Sail offered me a chance to learn all the stuff, the little pieces that had slipped past me over the years. And I went through and filled up on that. And as I was in class, I was also teaching. Every one of my homework assignments became something my students were doing the next day. The video news that you know how in elementary and middle school, everybody stands up and says the pledge in the morning because there's somebody on the announcements doing it. That's obviously makes everybody roll their eyes. That's a waste of everybody's time. The pledge is fine, but I mean, nobody's listening to the menu and the announcements.
Okay.
We started making a video, a little 4-minute good morning video every single day, clipping together internet memes and funny things, but then putting in the important stuff.
So you were implementing what you were learning in school with your students.
Right. It was a full circle for me to not only see that the stuff I was learning was valuable, but then to watch my own students benefit from the stuff that I was doing. It was so empowering. It filled me with excitement.
When you started at Full Sail, did you know you were going to get a master's, or did you go for the bachelor's and then decide to do your master's?
The bachelor's I had got that back in the 90s so that I could teach.
Okay.
And a teaching certificate. There's a lot of stuff you've got to go through to be able to teach. So I didn't have a master's yet, though, and that's what I came to Full Sail for.
So when you were learning at Full Sail and you were still teaching, did you have any idea you would be here doing what you're doing now in 2024?
None. I thought I would die 4 years later from the stress of teaching in elementary school. It was terrible. It was overwhelming. I mean, I don't like to think back on the days that I had a job that broke my heart, but that job hurt. It's like nurses.
Yeah.
How hard must it be to give so much of your time and your heart, and then there's so much sadness, and of course you've got some victories here and there, but they're interspersed with the things that didn't go the way you wanted them to, and there's real emotion on the table. You're giving up part of yourself to do that thing. My last 14 years making this my job.
Yeah.
I felt like I retired the day I came here. Like this is
talk that
hobby.
Talk, man. Talk that talk.
My dad growing up would tell me, find a job that makes you feel like you're not working. And for 20 years, I thought he was full of crap. Like, there's no such thing. Get out of here.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning upset. I go home glad, but knowing I got to go to work again in the morning.
Yeah.
That was burnt out Jason. Burnt out Jason had a hard time getting to work his last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I'd finished, this is my favorite part of this story, I'd finished 12 months of this master's program and had no idea that I was going to change my life. I just thought the program ends. Mine ended December 21st. That was the last day of
2010?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And if you're a Full Sail student or any kind of an online student, you know that you wake up in the morning and you check your email.
Right.
And then around noon, you check your messages in the platform. And then at night, before you go to sleep, you check your email again and the platform. It's a habit that you build, and you can't stop it. But I told myself on December 21st, Jason, you've earned it. Master's in the bag. You're done.
Yeah.
Take a week off and don't push any buttons on that computer. And 2 days later, I opened my computer, and my fingers just automatically opened my email. I did not intend to do it.
Yeah.
It's just muscle memory.
Right.
And waiting in the email was a message from one of my teachers in that program asking if I wanted to come and work there with them at Full Sail.
Okay, so you didn't apply, they just offered you this position because they saw what you could bring to the table?
Right. What I like to tell students is that Full Sail is on the lookout for the most brilliant students, and they then hire them as teachers, just like me. That's the example, right? The absolute most handsome, most brilliant.
First of all, listen. First of all, you're such a calm personality You seem like you taking things well. So for you to be stressed, everybody stresses, but you seem to understand how to approach stressful situations. So that's a good thing. So what do you think that you had as a student? Because they've seen thousands of students come through the program that they were like, this guy is somebody we want to hire. What was it about you that made them want to do that?
I'll give you two answers, and the first one's the most real. I got lucky. They had an opening right at the time that I was available.
Opening for?
The teaching spot in that program.
Which program was this program?
EMDT, Education, Media, Design, Technology, the master's program.
Got it.
And the position they had open was an ACD, Associate Course Director, so I didn't have my own class. I taught all of the classes depending on which professor was off that month.
Okay.
So it was like I would get upset when people would say assistant course director because it sounds like it's the same initials. I would always correct. No, associate.
Right.
Very important.
Yes.
I'm not just an assistant.
Distinction. Right.
And so when they asked me to come back, it had a lot to do with just dumb luck. And for me to say otherwise is it's not giving enough fairness to all the people that didn't get this job. There are so many astounding people that go through Full Sail and leave here and go off to do stuff.
Yeah.
Any one of them could have had my job. I got to be in the right place at the right time.
With the right skill.
Now, I will say that's part two. Part two of my answer is I also had what they were looking for. So there was luck and being the right person I was lucky that I was who I was at that time.
Were they looking for a funny, good-looking guy? What do you mean?
Yeah, handsome was their number one category.
What was it they were looking for?
We went through our cohort, and I think I was a really good group leader. I marched through 12 months with roughly the same 8 to 10 people, and I always found myself leading the group. When you're a group leader, you can do that a couple of different ways. You can take the drill sergeant method, and you can take the elementary school method, and you know which one I defaulted to, the friendly elementary school teacher, and that's just... I think people would prefer to work with somebody that's less aggressive or scratchy.
Is that your nature of who you are, or is that a strategic way that you decided to approach leadership? Because some people, it's in their personality.
Sure.
You can't be a drill instructor approach if that's not in you.
Right. I'm going to say both. I had a lot of experience working at a summer camp for like 15 years, summer after summer after summer. I tell people it was a lot like Buddhist reincarnation. Every year I got to live another life. And each year I would look back at the end of it and go, wow, that worked good, that worked good, that sucked, that sucked. And then next year I would try it with differences. And if you get to repeat anything 15 times, you get pretty good at what you're doing.
Right.
And what I found is that's my lane. I just fell into that. So maybe I just default to that because it's easier for me, but I also found success with it. So it works for me.
Okay, so how did you get into the transmedia and storytelling gaming course director position? Because that's a whole different thing than that you got hired for, right?
Right.
Originally.
Right. Yeah, that was a year and a half, almost 2 years after 2 years of being in the master's program. There were 4 of us that were teaching in that program. Kathy Craven, who's our boss, our dean,
right,
program director,
right,
and then there were 3 of us that were teaching in there. Lisa Smith, who left a couple of years ago, she works for Universal, and she's a prop maker. If you've ever been on the Harry Potter rides or anything at Universal that's Harry Potter related, she probably painted it or designed it or drew it.
Yeah.
And Emily Ray, who you know from our program, and
PPX.
Me. So the 4 of us left EMDT and created MCBS. That's when it was born. There was no MCBS before 2012. And we rolled out a month at a time, and it's a 30-month course, so it took, about 3 years? No, because we had some people doubling up. So it took about 2 years to get our entire faculty built and get all the classes rolled out and have it marching. And then it was just about refinement. Long before I was the gaming teacher here, I was the intro teacher, and then I was the new media tools teacher, and then I was the aesthetics teacher for a little bit because we were marching forward.
Were you put in those places because they needed someone, or is that something you wanted to do?
It's like we were playing hopscotch, and we would make the square and then hop forward and hire somebody to fill the class we'd made, and then we'd hop forward and do that again. But then when we had the little beginning built and we started having consistency, we were able to start hiring further out for the people that would take the classes so they'd create them themselves.
Okay, so it's like you built a foundation and then you started hiring other people to...
Right.
So you could do other of the newer stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Renee was one of those early hires. We became known as the program that was poaching all of the talent from around Full Sail. We would bring in friends from other industries, or we would bring in people that were at Full Sail that we knew that fit a certain energy. We created the program based on that energy and that family atmosphere.
Okay. Okay. So this goes way back before you got to being the course director of Transmedia and gaming.
But I'll tell you immediately, when I saw the list of classes that MCBS was going to have, I saw that one down there right in the middle and put my name by it immediately. It was like, well, this is me.
Okay, so this is new because you're usually asked to do things, right? When you don't even ask. But for this particular class, you wanted to do this.
I said that was written for me. That was built for me. I have no idea who came and got in my head. Well, actually, no, it was a little different. I forgot this. When it first started, it was not gaming and transmedia storytelling. It was gaming and animation, and I didn't put my name next to it because I had gaming down pat, but I shouldn't teach a class that has animation involved in it.
Okay.
I mean, as a hobbyist, maybe, but not like as a teacher. And so that got adjusted after like 2 months. We were still working on our intro class. There wasn't even marketing material out in the world yet when that changed.
Yeah.
And when that changed, it became a storytelling class and not a hodgepodge.
Right.
Originally, I think they took 2 ideas and stuck them together.
Okay.
Now, and what it's been for the last 12 years, has been a storytelling class with a focus on game storytelling and transmedia storytelling.
Okay.
So I really like to think of my class as a storytelling class. I think we all do. I'd say everybody in the program thinks about how their aspect helps tell stories.
I think so. I think this is the reason why we're here today. This is the reason I wanted to interview you, because the way you explain what gaming is, the transmedia storytelling, what was it? Not the marketing. The on your Gillettian Square. What is the 2? Cross media,
transmedia storytelling and the cross media storytelling.
Yeah, the cross media and the transmedia explanation on that. We're gonna talk about the square in a minute, but that was when I was like, oh, this is big. This is huge. This is something I didn't know, because I'm not a gamer. I have nothing against anyone that plays games. I played games back when I was young, but I did not know a lot of the things you brought up in the class, which I was excited about, and to share with other people the knowledge between ARGs, and there's 2 different types of ARGs and things like that. But let's get into you wanting to do this program. You've been doing it 12 years now. What is it about? Okay. So first of all, so many places I want to go. How long have you? When's the first time you played a video game? Let's go there.
I'll bet you and I played the same one first. It's not even a video game. I'll bet you and I each had that same handheld football game that was just the little red dots, and you had to click, 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 and you were trying to get your red dot to the other side before the other red dot got in your way.
No, I didn't play. I grew up in Canada, so maybe they didn't have it there, but I didn't play that game.
They had different versions, but it was my friend and I had one where he would hold his end and I would hold my end, and we would try to get our red dots past each other.
Okay.
It's like Pong without needing the TV almost.
Okay. Okay. What year was that, first of all? I don't want to...
I was born in 1972.
Okay. I'm born in 73, so we're around the same age, right?
Same, should be the same games, but that Canada explains a lot, I think.
Right. So is that when you fell in love? I'm assuming you fell in love with gaming. What was your, your experience that made you want to be in this place? We're going way back.
Let's separate two things out, because I have to mention this in class and sometimes shock some people.
Okay.
I don't love playing video games.
Okay, let's talk about it.
I love being involved in game creation. I like being Santa Claus, not the person opening the presents.
Okay, good metaphor.
Right?
Let's go.
I have so much fun creating an experience and then sitting back and watching people go through it. That's my jam. I could do that. I do that, and I would continue to do that for the rest of my days happily. Alternate reality game where you've got a live aspect and people looking for things, and those things turn out to be digital clues they have to follow. I've made dozens of those, and I've had hundreds of people going through them. And my favorite thing to do is lean against an oak tree with my coffee and just watch it happen. Watch them run around looking for this, finding that, squealing with delight, or punching the air when it doesn't work. Man, that's my jam. Love it.
But you started off playing games before you got to creating the games.
Sure. I played games so much I got tired of playing games. I don't like football anymore, but that's only because I was so into football that I burned it out of my brain.
Yeah.
I spent my 9 years of doing nothing but football.
Yeah.
And I'm out of energy for that. And
Yeah.
I probably feel that same way about most video games. I'll sit and play Fortnite for 6 straight hours.
Yeah.
I'll sit and play Baldur's Gate for 2 straight days and pretend like I'm sick and not answer my emails.
Right.
But I'm not, that's different than those people that wake up and dream video games. They stream video games.
Sure.
They talk about them all day. They're people that love consuming the game. I love creating the game. It's all about making the thing for me.
Let me ask you about this. So would you say, what percentage would you say of Full Sail students are considered gamers, if you had to put a percentage on there?
Every program has a whole set of gamers in it. Audio production is probably 30 or 40% gamer. This comes up. Boy, we could really, this could be a whole podcast itself with different episodes.
There might be part 2 and 3. Let's go.
There's the way that people consider themselves and the way other people consider them. I've got a friend who wouldn't consider himself a gamer, but he should wear a shirt that says I'm a gamer because he games, talks about it all the time. But he's comparing himself to his other friends who never seem to stop. It's all how we perceive ourselves and other people perceive us. Some people, when if they watched what I did during the week, they would think, well, that guy's a gamer. Just he must live off Doritos and Mountain Dew, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I don't perceive myself that way because I know people that really put in the 40, 80 hours a week of doing that.
Right. And are those people getting paid to do it, or
some of them?
Some of them.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. One of my kids is streaming right now with a group of friends, and they're a squad, and they started 3 months ago, and they're all each now making like $50 a month, which sounds like a little bit of money. It doesn't sound like a lot, but on Twitch, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it speaks to rapid growth. So they've got the opportunity to keep pushing up and start making salary kind of money.
One of the things you did in our class that I enjoyed, because it has to do with interviewing, you made us interview some Twitch streamers.
Right.
I really enjoyed that. That was good to edit that video and to talk to those streamers. I never had a Twitch until you forced us to download it. So you forced us to do some things. The program that made us do these things to learn about this world of gamification and everything. So I enjoyed that. It was good, and I got to be in the world of Twitch. My question about gaming is, we talked about the percentage. I I actually forgot my question.
Well, I could finish that old question I didn't answer yet. The audio production students, I think, would have the lowest percentage of people that would call themselves a gamer. And then we've got those programs like game art, game development.
Okay.
Those are going to be like 90%. Only 10% would say, I'm not a gamer, I'm just here for the audio, or I'm just here for the art.
Yeah. One of I remember my question. So I thought before I came to the school, and I always got to watch how I speak because sometimes I can sound offensive, but I thought gaming was a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought if you're sitting there playing a game for 40 hours a week, I thought you're wasting your time if you're not getting paid,
right,
in my mind. But then I took psychology of play, and that's when I learned that, you know, playing a game in your mind or whatever game you're playing is good for mental health. So when did you realize that gaming was a good thing? You know, because
no,
because remember, we're about the same age. So, you know, games for us was for kids. And then you grow up, and then you gotta grow up. You can't play games anymore because you're not a kid. You're an adult now. So that's how I grew up, and that's how I see things. So later on, when I found out there's 50, 60, 70-year-olds playing video games, that's not rare. That's normal, right?
Right. It is now.
Right. So when did you realize that gaming was a good thing and good for your mental health or whatever it's good for?
Picture an elementary school teacher, especially 20 years ago. Call of Duty was all the rage. GTA had come out. And both those games are notorious, especially the early editions, for some of their negative the negative parts of them. Violence towards a group or violence in general. Games were getting blamed for a lot of things. I would say as recently as 8 years ago, gamer was a pejorative term. You'd call somebody a dirty damn gamer. Like you smell like you don't bathe. You got the fedora that you never take off. And
the fedora.
I mean, it was the real thing. Was 8 to 10 years ago, gamer was an insult. But before that, as a teacher, I was surrounded by other teachers and married to another teacher who all were dealing with students that would come in and then talk nonstop about these violent video games with headshots and stealing the car and shooting that person. And as a teacher, you're like, man, I don't know if this is a good idea. This seems pretty bad. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this. I would then go home and play NBA Jams and Wipeout XL, and I could name the Sega games that I blistered my thumbs with.
Yeah.
But the kids would come in, and I would think, oh, well, this isn't good for kids. And then in that master's class I told you about, halfway through the program, month 7 or 8, I took a class, and it was gaming, GSA, game strategy and motivation. And it's talking about how games motivate individuals and how that can be leveraged with learners. Our teacher, Dr. Siegel, you're out there, Dr. Siegel, I know you. Dr. Siegel made us play World of Warcraft, and my whole group, all 10 of us, our cohort was like, are you kidding me? I don't have time for this bull crap. I don't have time to download a game and play it. What? World of Warcraft it wasn't new, but it was new enough that it seemed like one of those other games that we'd been hearing about. I'd never played it. I didn't know much about it. But I'm not going to skip a homework assignment.
Right.
So I did my work. And my first week, I'm like, oh, this is stupid. I'll write my review about this. And then we had to play it again for week 2. And I was like, this is stupid. I'll write my review for this.
Right.
Week 3 comes around. I'm like, oh, man, I get it. I understand. I literally had to have somebody do what I do now, which is grab my eyelids and open them up for me, because mine were closed. I knew games were good for me. I didn't recognize how valuable they were for the world. I had no idea. So I had somebody here at Full Sail open my eyes for me and say, go in this direction. And I started going in that direction, and every step I took was more and more convincing to me that this is the answer.
Answer to?
Everything. You know, we're about to have, with 8 billion people on the planet, we've got all our needs met, and everybody's only, I mean, we only need to work like 10 hours a week. And we can manage 8 billion people on Earth, keep them fed, medicined, doctored up, alive, safe, maybe 15. Because we're so good at building things to help us do what we do. If you've got human beings that are alive 24/7 and you can only occupy 15 hours of their week, what are they doing the rest of the time? There's creation. There's building old things, rebuilding old things rather than building new things. Eventually you stop building and touching out and you start going in. We as humans need to explore our own possibilities and what we're capable of. I can't go to Mars right now, but I can play a simulated game that's as if I'm going to Mars.
What does that do?
Keeps me sane, opens me up, gives me ideas for how to actually do a thing. Do you know how many things that they had on Star Trek that were just these crazy ideas for sci-fi that became reality within 20 years? Everything we do is building our future. The games that we play are building our future. And it's our generation. We grew up because the boomers were raised by the people that were brought up in the Depression, that scarcity is terrifying, get what you need, work hard so you're never hungry. But we all got so smart and so good at making things. There's an abundance of food. There's starvation, but that's an issue of moving food around the planet.
Right.
We're making all the things that we need for everybody, and now it's just a matter of playing the game well for humanity's sake.
So let me ask you about, you're born in, you said 72?
Mm-hmm.
The people that are coming through Full Sail are 18 years old, born in 2006, right?
Yeah.
To them and their world of gaming, and you being, you know, an old guy to them.
Thank you.
How? Yeah, because we're the same. I'm an old guy to them too. So,
but we're still so incredibly young. That's the important part.
Right, right. So, are you keeping up with what's going on, with how fast things are changing in this world of transmedia gaming, or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say if I was a car mechanic, I would have stayed current with when everything went from like a lawnmower engine Volkswagen up to a computerized whatever we're driving these days. I would have stayed current with that. So I do that naturally with anything that I'm a part of.
Easy to do for you?
Sure.
Okay.
I haven't run up against anything. You know who I should thank? I should thank my youngest child, River. She's taught me so much. As when I wrote my class originally, the first version of my class.
How old is she, if you don't mind me asking?
No. Right now she's 20.
Oh, 20. Okay.
And when she helped me teach this, I guess 12.
Okay.
Or helped me write it. She and I sat down, had a long discussion. She was already. She was playing more video games than I was, easily. The fact that I knew as much as I knew was because I sat with her and played her games, sat with her, watched her playing her games. The things that I learned because I wasn't afraid to ask people that were much younger than me what they thought and what they're doing next. And I would say that's what I love about this job. I feel like I'm my students' age. I'm perpetually 19 here. And it's refreshing to have people come in and keep me current with what I'm supposed to know. At first, 12 years ago, I was afraid to say I don't know a thing almost. A student would say, hey, have you been on Twitch yet? And I would say, no, not yet, but I will be soon. And then I would go Google Twitch. What the hell are they talking about? Now I open straight up and say, I'm counting on you guys to keep me current. Like I open class with, tell me what I need to know. If I'm talking about something and you know more than me, be the teacher. Because we're not here, I'm not a guru on top of a mountain handing out wisdom. I'm a facilitator amongst a group of really smart individuals that have a lot of different skill sets trying to find a way to squish them all together so we all benefit from each other.
That's very good. Kanye West said, I don't listen to anybody my age or older than me. I listen to the younger people because they're the closest to what's new and exciting and, changing. So that's what he said. So that's kind of, I mean, you use your knowledge plus the younger knowledge to come and facilitate. So that's good to hear. I guess your ego has to be out of the way for that.
Yeah, I guess that was the story a little bit there, is that I hadn't shed the ego. I was still afraid to not seem like the guru on top of a mountain 12 years ago, and now I'm totally comfortable with it because I know where I am. I know who I am in the world.
Now, we like going back to our age, when I first started playing video games, I started with ColecoVision.
Ooh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you heard me right. ColecoVision, baby.
Mm-hmm. Had a keyboard on it.
Yeah, ColecoVision and television.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on to the 2600 Atari.
Yeah.
So I remember that Atari console and everything. So there was a documentary that came out 2014 called Atari. Did you see it?
I don't think so. I thought you were going to mention the one that's on Netflix, the
that
extra
one.
Credits.
Or is it? I think it was called Atari, wasn't it? It's when they the ET movie, the ET game kind of destroyed Atari and. Okay, well, I guess
they talk about that one in the Netflix one. It's got 4 episodes also, and it talks about how Steven Spielberg. I used to tell the story where Steven Spielberg got blindsided. I would describe Atari as somebody who approached Steven and said, "Hey, Stevie baby, let us your Atari or your ET movie is blowing up. Let us make a game." And Steven's like, "Go ahead and do it. I trust you. You're Atari." And then Atari made that giant smoldering turd of a game that they made. And
right.
And that hurt his IP. That hurt the ET image because the game was so bad. And we talk about that in class because that's the motivation to really, if you're going to pitch a game to somebody that owns a story, you have to overcome that ET damage. You got to go and say, I am not going to Atari your story, J.R.R. Martin. I promise.
Right.
We're going to make Game of Thrones, the video game, way better.
Right.
The truth is, when I watch that documentary that I think you're talking about, or if it's this one and I go find a new documentary I'll be excited about, in both cases, the reality was that Steven was a part of that. He knew, like, he was there saying, change this, change that. He had a lot more involvement in the game development than I recognized that he did. Okay.
Because the one I saw was, they talked about E.T. was the downfall of Atari, and that it also covered the way life was as the employees that worked at Atari, where they were just having this great life of smoking weed and just making games. But when the Atari game E.T. destroyed or everything, they dumped all the Atari games in a big hole. In a big hole, and then they dug it up, like, I don't know, 5 years ago.
Yeah. For 15 years, that was a rumor. It was like one of those Elvis is still alive, Disney's head is frozen under Cinderella's castle, and Atari dug a hole and buried 1 million copies of E.T.
Right.
Except they did.
They did.
They really
did. They did. They other games too, but yeah.
And Disney's head really is frozen under Cinderella's castle, just FYI for everybody.
So, yeah, I thought that was a real good documentary on Atari. So where do you see gaming? I don't even know if that's the word I'm going to use. I'm going to use gaming for now, but like, where do you see this headed? First I want to go into, before we talk about where it's headed, I want to go into the ARGs, right? Mm-hmm. That was another thing I learned that was a big deal when, especially with the Gotham City opening and, 10 million people getting involved in this ARG game. And you explained the difference between ARG and augmented and alternate reality games. That was a good explanation. And I was fascinated how so many people can come together all over the world about a game that really is not announced.
Yeah, right. Without any kind of marketing or anything.
So where do you see gaming, ARGs in the future? What is there something else that we don't know about that's coming up that you can foresee that's going to be big?
Sure. If I had the money to invest, I would do what arcades did back in the 70s and 80s. People would go to an arcade and put a quarter in a machine because you couldn't buy a whole video game and put it in your house. That's ridiculous. It was like that whole Donkey Kong arcade console. How could you possibly do that?
Right.
And then over the course of a decade, we got really good at making consoles, and it stopped being giant pixel blocks and turned into like cartoon animations. It got so good that arcades went away because now you can play video games at home, right?
Okay.
VR is going to do that exact same thing. It should have done it 5 years ago.
VR?
Yeah. VR, AR, MR, they're mixed reality, augmented reality, and virtual reality.
Okay.
And those are the games that you see people put the goggles on, and they've got the gloves, and some of them now they're walking on those little pads with the wheels, so it simulates running and walking.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can't spend $15K, most people can't spend $15K and get a rig like that in their house.
Right.
In fact, they probably don't even want to dedicate an entire room to it, which is what you kind of have to do. But they would happily go pay $15 at an arcade to put on the goggles and the gloves. So I think the new arcade are going to be VR arcades, and I think that money is just sitting on the ground waiting for people to pick it up, because the tech is here.
Yeah.
And it's even here in our homes. It's here in our homes at the level that ColecoVision was in our homes.
Okay.
You can play VR, and you can do Beat Sabers, and you can do the other things that you can do, the other cool games like that.
Yeah.
They're just not. They're not at that $15K rig quality. You can't run on the floor, and you can't. Your chest doesn't feel like it got shot because you're wearing the vest that makes it feel like you got shot.
Okay.
And those are the kind of things that you'd pay for at a VR arcade. The other thing we've seen, if you can imagine football, when we were kids, it seemed like football and Super Bowls had been around forever. Like it wasn't a question. It was there and established as I came to consciousness, so it must have been there forever is the feeling.
Right.
Anybody that's going on with esports and things like that, they are experiencing the same thing, but they're being born into a world where esports have been here consistently. They're gaining consciousness in a world where esports are a thing. As far as they know, it's been here forever. You're going to see people getting paid as much as the NFL commissioner as an esports commissioner. And you're seeing that almost now, but all those numbers are going to rise. The teams are going to rise. The city jerseys are going to be as prevalent as Chiefs jerseys in Kansas City. It's really that's what's coming next. Those are going to be the superstars that people are rallying behind.
Okay. Well, Jason, this completes our discussion on gaming and your career for today, because right now you've opened up a lot more questions for me to ask. But I want to continue in the future to have these conversations so I could learn, so everybody else out there could learn. But I really enjoyed you coming and talking to us about gaming and everything and how you got here today. So would you come back on the show and do this again in the future?
Oh, happily.
Okay, good. So we're going to do this again, but for right now, we're going to sign off. Thank you for coming, Jason, and thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will be back with Jason Gillett one more time, and we'll get to discuss with him more about the gaming world. Thank you for coming out.
Thanks, everybody.